It is wonderful to be here, to be around people that you don't really need to get the value proposition of blockchain and crypto to. It's refreshing. So yeah, it's a pleasure and an honor to be here. My name is Karim AbdelMawla. I've been at 21 shares for the past 2.5 years almost. Um, yeah. So let's get this started. Okay, so I'm going to be talking a few things today. I'll talk briefly about our mission statement, what 21Co does and stands for. I will also talk about how we unofficially find Dune as our partner. We don't have any sort of official relationship with them, but our work has really evolved through what Dune offers, and it's laughable to think about how different things used to be a year and a half ago. I'm also going to be talking about how we are really pushing education with using Dune's accessibility of information, and then finally talking about how we have used real-time data to. I'm not going to talk about financial analysis because I think our friends here at Blockworks did an excellent job. But I'm going to be taking it a step further to talk about how this was able to help us identify contagion risk. So yeah, let's get this party started. Okay. So who whenever you're working in a very techy industry, the silliest things usually get to you, so embracing it. Um okay, so who are we? We are one of the world's first and largest crypto ETP issuers. We were founded in 2018. We have a lot of products. We have about 30. It's sometimes you actually forget how many products we have. 38 products, including single asset trackers, indexes, the S&P 500s of crypto. And we also have like some really, well, not exotic, but cool products like combining Bitcoin and gold in the same index, just to get the best of both worlds. Um, we have a current AUM of $1.4 billion. We reached $3 billion at the peak of the bull market, but that was felt like a decade ago. But yeah, it's the sentiment is improving, and it's good to be on the forefront of this. Okay. So what do we do? In terms of our technological, like in terms of the technological side of what we do, we are really trying to make accessibility to crypto as easy as possible. The kind of audience and the kind of consumers we look at are our grandmas, how our grandmas would be able to get access to crypto without even thinking about some of the most technical intricacies or, complexity of using a non-custodial wallet or any of that cool stuff. So yeah, that's for the most part what we do in terms of the technology. But then what really helps us to stand out is our focus on our research. Not to talk about any other asset issuers or asset managers, but really one of the things that, based also on the feedback that we've gotten from our clients and audiences, we place education and research at the core of everything that we do. It was easy to list a lot of products and just, go crazy at the midst of the bull market. That was never really our intention. It was always about truly finding the fundamental value in some of the products or the underlyings that we have created products for. So yeah, that's where we are. And then just as a cool way to show the team that has made it possible, we're a very decentralized and distributed team. We're covering really the 4 regions of the world. I just moved here to Lisbon, so if anyone is around and you're at the after party, please introduce yourself. But yeah, okay. So, as I was saying, it's really wonderful to see the kind of synergy and relationship that we have been developing with Dune. We really do find them as we really do find Dune as our unofficial partner. Um, it's really laughable to think about the kind of hoops and barriers that we had to come across in order to have a better understanding of crypto's data. Like, yeah. So, for instance, Dune, as we're all quite aware, if you wanted to get access to 3 different blockchains, you needed to have the technical expertise to download their data, well, to understand the architecture of the blockchain, download its data, and do all of that hectic stuff. Well, Dune thankfully does that to us now. We kind of have the same approach when we talk about 21Co. There's tons of information out there, but we really try to standardize it and formalize it as much as possible. Uh, there's a lot of research out there, but I think a lot of people get lost in the hype of trying to do too much, getting way too much in the technological aspect of things and how it works out. But really, if you want to advance this space forward, you have to speak the other people, but yeah, people's language. You can't really just be all excited about the technology and just forget about everything else. Dune also has made it very possible to democratize information. Anyone right now with the technical expertise is able to access data without any guardians, without any financial advisors. I'm a really good example of this. I have nothing to do with data. I come from international relations and a journalism academic background. But over the past few months, I got obsessed mainly because of one of my colleagues, the MVP, Tom Wan, if anyone is aware of who he is. He has been the main culprit really in driving me to understand about SQL and just spend ungodly amount of time on the programming language. So yeah, and this is kind of the same like what to do at 21 Shares. There's heaps of information out there, but it's really important to, yeah, just shorten the gap, if you may. In terms of transparency, as we all know, it's kind of powerful what Dune is able to offer, and we really try to do the same. We don't provide any financial advice. We're just an issuer, so we don't really talk about that sort of aspect of having products. But in that sense, we really try to be transparent with our methodologies and explaining how we came to the conclusion of, listing some of the products that we have. And then finally, Dune has really made it incredibly easy and actionable to look into certain trends and look deep into the weeds to understand what is really going on. And that's really what it's been the main driving force into how our educational level or our educational view has really changed. I'll get more into this using some of the dashboards that I will talk about later on. So yeah. Okay. So how are we doing this? And not just how are we doing this, what are the three driving goals for us? So first of all, as I'm sure everyone here is aware, crypto provides an unprecedented accessibility to services and applications that we never really thought were possible or were quite practically impossible to access. Of course, it's just been finance so far, but there's heaps of other services right now that is accessible via Web3, the railways of Web3. And from our perspective, it's really the data of the underlying data that represents some of these applications. It should be as easily accessible and it should be as transparent. And that's what we really believe in. We don't believe that the asymmetry of information that is quite prevalent in all the other industries, we don't think this is obviously it's not the way to go. And that's what we have been fighting for really for the past 2.5 years. We believe in the ethos of free public information, which is also one of the reasons why our research will always be free. We will never put paywalls. That's, of course, like there's a time and place for these kind of things. But in terms of what we're doing, we really do believe in the publicly accessible nature of providing access to this kind of information. There's also how are we able to transform all of the data that is available to actionable insights. So as I like to call it, crypto and Web3, it's not an industry, it's the industry of all industries. It's the mother of all industries. It's intersecting and improving on so many different things like finance, storage, gaming. We're just seeing the early innings of it. But this is really what's going to happen. And in order to really have a useful outcome of this, you really need to start transforming and manipulating the data so that it can be clear enough to take actionable insights on. Again, if it was not for Dune, I just remember like how when we used to put primers, you have to rely on block explorers and then use like 3 other different platforms and then download all of this data in order to visualize it. But yeah, right now it's just with the blink of a few clicks. And it's also like really important because we're not just here talking about the financial health or the not just looking at the industry from a financial perspective, because there's a lot of other things that people quite frankly would be interested in. But it's really important to have these kind of insights in a timely manner in order to identify patterns and see the trends ahead of their time. And then finally, the transparency. Again, we've already touched upon this. Blockchain is a truly powerful it's a truly powerful technology and a truly powerful industry because of the kind of transparency that we really experience here. Um, but there's also so much that you can. It's too overwhelming at a certain point of how much you can get out of the data. So it's really important that we are able to demystify this kind of data and present it in a very actionable and a straightforward manner in order to make the most out of get hundreds and hundreds of terabytes of publicly available data. And as I will get into it, because that's really the core focus of what we do. Well, not of what we do, but core focus of how we've been able to help our investors. It's the transparency that allows us to identify contagion risk in a really timely manner. And as I will show in the next few dashboards, I cannot imagine how the last year would have been, without this. Keep forgetting that I have to point here. Okay, so one of the really truly powerful case studies that we've had was we did a dashboard on FTX. We did a dashboard on FTX. Not surprisingly, this was one of our key dashboards that really put us on the map on the 6th of November. So when the news started coming out on FTX and how they were, well, thanks to CZ, putting them on the spotlight and just highlighting the kind of malicious practices and just complete observation and straight up fraud, we thought that it was quite important to see uh, their actual true image, like the image of their collateral, how they were acting with other parties, and that's a prime example here. So as you can see, there were obviously a lot of outliers over the first 3 years of Alameda and FTX's existence. As we all quite know now, FTX was really just a front for Alameda. Alameda was really the one holding all the money, and yeah, FTX was a front shop essentially. But as you can see from here, I should have zoomed in a little bit more, but essentially over the last week before FTX collapsed, we saw that Alameda just in average compared to the rest of the economic activity or the rest of the transfers that were happening between both entities, it was really starting to become quite evident that something quite suspicious was happening. So yeah, this was really powerful. And as a matter of fact, CoinDesk published a piece on this on the 10th of November where we have a whole dashboard on this. I'm just showing one subsection of it. But one of the reasons that it became very cool to know what was really happening is that we were able to see the token distribution, the fact that FTX had, I think it was more than 40% of their tokens or the tokens in their collateral was essentially an FTT, and that was mind-blowing. But the ability to be able to see this in real time, it really just changed the perspective of everything, and it made us well-positioned to protect ourselves and to give timely advice and information to our clients. So I kind of skipped over part of the story that I wanted to cover, which is how all of this is how all of this is acting as a public good. And I actually want to take it a step back just before going into the next slide. So all the talks that we've had today, this really ties it all back in. Whether it is understanding about the token distribution, whether it is understanding what's the optimal airdrop strategy that you can use. If you want to talk about the fact that you're able to use this kind of public information to have a real time understanding of the financial health. For an outsider, this all seems very overwhelming, and it's really impossible to do it on your own. But using the publicly accessible data, it becomes very beneficial for people who have no understanding or no idea what the hell crypto is about to have this kind of really powerful insights. So yeah, I just wanted to highlight this, that it really does act as a public service. And it also highlights the fact that, we sometimes struggle with, well, what is the use case of crypto? It's becoming more and more evident that there are a variety of use cases, but really one of the most powerful things is the open public nature of an infrastructure that you can use at the moment just to understand finance. But as time will evolve and more industries will come into play, you're going to be able to understand all of these things in real time. And again, as again, our friends at Blockworks here said, you don't have to wait for quarterly reports anymore. You're able to do this in on the spot. And yeah, we really do believe that this is powerful. So another very well-known example, I mean, I'm sure on Twitter, if you guys are part of crypto Twitter, every few weeks, someone just makes the ridiculous claim that the US government is selling half of its holdings. This happens all the time. It's quite insane also how the mainstream uh, media companies, don't want to throw any names there, how they always fall into this trap of, yeah, well, they just, they follow along the trend. And it's been um, truly mind-blowing how people still, from outside crypto, they still do not understand that for Bitcoin, this is like the first public blockchain. And if you are going to be doing anything with the asset itself, it's done on a public infrastructure. If you're able to track this in real time, you don't need to trust anyone. You're able to verify this on your own. And yeah, this has been also one of our very quite attractive dashboards, I would say. As you can see from here, it's funny how the U.S. government is one of the largest Bitcoin owners, but it's also funny to see that in real time. What else? So as we can all remember from the U.S. banking crisis back in March, it was again quite. It's not satisfying, of course, because at the end of the day, we really don't want anyone to lose their money, and we don't want businesses to get affected. But it was quite refreshing to see how the value proposition of crypto, when it first came out, it was coming back into the scene because of the fact that the counterparty risk and the fact that you just have to trust whatever financial institution you're dealing with, that they're doing things as intended, that they have proper risk management practices. And yeah, so when we look at here, we have this dashboard on Curve Finance. Curve Finance is one of the largest decentralized exchanges, mainly focused on stable swaps, stable coins. So as you can see from here, one of their main pools is called the 3 pool, for anyone who's not quite accustomed to it. And you can tell from here that, for instance, so the US banking crisis, SVB, Silicon Valley Bank, they were one of the main custodians of USDC, essentially holding the US dollars for the stablecoin. And we were able to tell from here that, USDC, for the first time ever, Tether at the time was the more safer asset, mainly because of the fact that they were not under the mercy in the US for the most part. But yeah, we were able to see the kind of like different dynamic that was happening here. And as a fun fact, our venture into Dune started a week after Luna, because of how much chaos and ultimate mayhem that was out there. So yeah, that's just a cool fact. But then also, like a few months back, when the news about Tether came out that they were again getting re-involved in uncollateralized lending, or more specifically lending out USDT, we were able to see in real time that there was some sort of a short trade where people were borrowing USDC against their USDT, essentially getting rid of USDT because of the fact that they thought that Tether was doing some shady stuff. And then the Curve Finance exploit. A few months back, Curve got hacked. There was again so much misinformation there. Some people were misreporting this and that there were almost more than $3 or $4 billion getting siphoned out of the exchange. That really wasn't the case. But what was even more cool is that we were able to track the holdings of the hackers, the ones who were able to siphon the money out of the exchange. This is again just a subset of it, because there were 3 affected pools essentially by the exploit. But the fact that we were able to see this in real time was again very, very eye-opening, because at the end of the day, if Curve, which is one of the the critical pillars of the decentralized finance ecosystem, if they were in trouble, then God forbid that DeFi would be in a good place. But yeah, this again was very, very powerful to see in real time. And then the elephant in the room. Um, this is specifically talking about Binance. We have a whole dashboard that talks about proof of reserves. This became an initiative after the straight out fraud of FTX. But yeah, we were able to put out a dashboard that essentially shows the collateral and the well-being of all, pretty much like the top 10 largest exchanges. It shows their holdings in real time, which is essentially like the distribution of the tokens, how much they have grew and whatnot. But this also was very, very cool because, you're able to essentially match the kind of inflows and outflows that they were having, and then you're able to make your own, conclusions and essentially how solvent they were. And then lastly, and finally, the most exciting topic that everyone is talking about right now, the next evolution of crypto and blockchain. Finally, the technology is being implemented to its true value proposition. It's not really about a trend anymore. It's about actually leveraging the true benefits of a blockchain. And yeah, we have a whole exciting dashboard about the growth of all the different sectors that fall under real world assets. I highly implore everyone to check it out. But yeah, it shows just a very holistic picture. This is just one picture of how tokenization as a totality is growing. But then we also do break down all the different components like private equities, real estate, corporate bonds, and whatnot. And I realized that I went a little bit over time to give everyone a bit of a chance to ask a question. But if you guys like what I presented so far, and you want to learn more about 21Co, please do scan our dashboard. Do reach out to us as well. We're nerds at heart, but we do also appreciate human conversations every now and then. And yeah, that's thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for fighting the good fight. For the awesome presentation. Wish I had seen the FTX stuff a few days earlier than I did. But yeah, next time.
It's insane.
We have time for a couple of questions if someone in the audience has them.
I know I did a really good presentation, but come on, I know you have some questions.
Yeah. Anyone? No? Yeah, we got one here. Two, actually. Yeah.
Hi, good presentation. I just want to say that. I had a question about the proof of reserves. So I understand what proof of reserves is showing, what the metric is about, but is that metric really that insightful or important without proof of liabilities? Because you can have $100 billion of BTC, but if you also want 101 billion, you can't necessarily see that on chain.
As FTX has rightfully proved that that does not give really the full picture. And yeah, you're right. I just sort of had to swoop over to be in time, but you're absolutely right. There's also a lot of off-chain agreements that are not being recorded on-chain, so that's another thing that we have to take into account. And most importantly, this is showing the kind of collateral and the kind of assets that they have on the platforms that Dune supports. So there might be, even as we have been finding out, there are certain assets that are being collateralized in a really sketchy and a different way, but on a completely different blockchain. So yeah, absolutely, to your point, this shows more like a lower equilibrium, or like a lower bound of the kind of health and collateral health that they have, but it absolutely does not show the full picture.
Hey, I appreciate that presentation. It was great. I was curious. So when you were building out the RWA dashboard, did you have any main takeaways of something that you maybe didn't know before that, and you're like, oh, now that I have this insight, this was a huge win for me, maybe around something like what types of assets are being tokenized and how you think that trend will continue going forward?
Yes, it really changed my perspective on tokenization, because for the most part, it's just been focused on U.S. Treasury bonds. We're in a very high risk, high interest rate regime that we haven't experienced in almost a decade. So it's quite obvious why this is the first and just most impactful use case of it. But I was quite intrigued by real estate, to be honest. It's real estate and private equity, to be very frank. And with real estate, there are a lot of because we did. By the way, we did a whole tokenization report, and then the dashboard was essentially accompanying it. It was a quantitative side of our findings. So with real estate, there still a lot of regulatory hurdles that needs to be overcome, because you can't really just open this to the global market, because this will create ultimate havoc. But yeah, this was really eye-opening. Also, all the chains that, like Gnosis, for instance, I had no idea that there are almost 4 projects that have some of their assets there. And private equity, I think is really cool. It's very convincing as well, because at the end of the day, if you're investing privately in a company, you want a way out of this quite early. Yeah, utilizing smart contracts and the blockchain railways provides this. So yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Karim.